What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. How are you doing? I'm one half of your host, Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. We have a great show for you guys tonight. A lot to talk about. You see the thumbnail. We got to talk about Wendy O. We got to talk about BitBoy, Ben Armstrong. They choose PulseChain this Valentine's Day season. So we're going to talk a lot about that. A lot of fun stuff going on in this ecosystem right now with the big influencers kind of flocking to it. We have Solana go down today for the first time, and I don't know how long, but it's having issues again. We had an FOMC standing pat last week. We're going to get to a little bit of XRP got hacked and major dumpage last week, or I should say one of the CEO's stuff was hacked or something to that effect. But yeah, lots to talk about tonight. Thank you guys for being here. If you're making your way into the show, do us a favor, hit the like. We do this every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. DJ Moonboy, Viking, Beard Brand, Patrick's Astro and stuff. I don't recognize a couple of these names. DJ and Hexagon. I think we had Daddy Hexler in here earlier too. Welcome in, guys. Love having you all here. A lot to talk about as we get our customary PulseChain dip as we go on the air here. Ewok, how are you feeling about the crypto sphere this evening?
I'm feeling good. It's another week, and it's not as many green candles this week, but things are still looking up. Definitely, sentiment is changing. Positivity, more people coming around, coming on board. Always good to see that. So yeah. I mean, things are looking up.
I agree. Yes, lots of good things. I mean, obviously the price has already come up here over the last couple of months if you've been following along, but also other good, fundamental things going on as well, like with what we're seeing with some of the bigger influencers and some of the walls kind of breaking down with this Hex and PulseChain brand here, which is something that we kind of thought was going to be inevitable, of course, over time. And here we are. So real quick, we'll take a look at some prices of some things first, see where we are. We got Bitcoin and ETH just not really moving because they don't really move anymore. Bitcoin's right around 43K. We got ETH at just below 2,400. So I think that's kind of where they've been resting here for a bit. Ewok, you and I have talked about thinking we'd be, down into the 30s pretty steadily by now, or I know Axis Alive has talked about it. We've seen plenty of people kind of they're looking at these Bitcoin charts, speculating that we could be revisiting that the local low area of 32K. So far, it hasn't really done that. But then again, maybe it's just waiting towards, closer to the halving, or maybe even towards a topic we're going to get to here in a moment, whenever there's actual rate cut by the Fed here in the U.S. this month, this year. But yeah, what do you make of where BTC is now? I still think we're probably heading back into the 30s again here eventually, but what do you make of where we're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've anticipated. That's the way history has kind of shown itself whenever there's a halving. There is a considerable pullback, somewhere right before that. And we're only about, a month and a half away from that date. So, we just got a weird bullish cross here from the 50 and the 200, which, points in the bullish direction. So yeah, I mean, I'm still expecting a pullback, but it doesn't seem to want to react that way. Does the ETF have something to do with it? That's quite possible. We're seeing some just stair-stepping green candles here. So it definitely could be playing into it, but I do still see some sort of pullback before that date. You're muted.
And I'm muted. Yep. I totally agree. I think so as well. I mean, we're probably looking at, as we're going to get into, rate hikes rate cut coming here probably in May, very early May. So yeah, we're going to see all these things kind of coalescing at one time, with the halving coming up, the rate cuts that we think are going to happen coming up. There's going to be some interesting stuff kind of macro wise that is going to affect, crypto. So we'll keep an eye on that. In terms of the PulseChain ecosystem prices, I mentioned it a moment ago. As always, we have a little wee bit of a dip here as we start our show, which is customary here if you're new. This one, I mean, it's really nothing, but I mean, we're still seeing, as we were last week, the ecosystem continue to dip. I mean, not by much, but kind of oscillating a little bit above that sacrifice rate of 0001 for PulseChain. So we're still seeing that. I had in the notes here that it feels like we may be on the verge of a big move because we have just been consolidating here now for a couple of weeks since that last big move up. But yeah, here we are dipping a bit. I mean, I don't know how big of a move we could really get down. I certainly could see us getting to, right at sack rate or just wick below it because we did see that just a couple of weeks ago. But it's not like we're way over sack rate right now. So I mean, we're hanging out right there. We've got PulseChain at 0.0011. I mean, just barely over sack rate. Pulse X still. I mean, if you're looking at this thing long term, which hardly anybody has the capability to do anymore, it seems. Which shout out to Frank Molina, the great interview we had with him last week. If you want to get a good glimpse at looking at things long term, and especially with Pulse X, I highly recommend you guys go check that one out. It's been one of our most successful shows to date, and for good reason. That was a great talk with Frank. But we got Pulse X at about 56% below the sack rate. Combined Hex looks at about 2.3, 2.4 cents right now. And that's where we are. So if you wanted to pull up, I guess we could just look at Pulse real quick, Ewok, and kind of give us your thoughts on it and where you think we're headed here. I mean, do you think this little downtrend could continue? I mean, I could definitely see us wicking below sack rate for a bit if we continue this direction. Now you're muted, so gotcha. There you go.
Get our stuff together here, right?
Got the cobwebs today.
Yeah, no, banging them off here. I do think it could dip a little bit. People are, I've seen a couple other people that do, very good charting stuff out there calling for a dip. Now, I don't see that it goes too much past sack rate. If it does, I hope it's short lived. I think we hope that does turn into support because there's quite a bit of support back here around those levels. So, the early days, hopefully that can act as support. It may, if it does break through, we could have a little trouble getting back up over though too. So, it's one of those things where you kind of got to wait to see what happens until it crosses it and how much trouble it has. I think there's a bunch of levels that are set with liquidity, things like that, to buy up some orders. Yeah, I don't see it dipping too far, but I don't also see it taking off. Now, I read the comment there that Crypto 7 said something about he thinks Richard Hart will stream in the next 20 days. I don't see that happening. Really don't see it happening until a little bit more stuff with the case, kind of plays out. I just think it would be silly for him to do a live stream. Could he record a video? I think that is more likely than a live stream. Yeah, I don't see that happening. But we got to use this sack level as support. I really think that's the deal, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm in agreement. I mean, not to totally change the topic, but yeah, I don't really think that either from our age in the next 20 days. And honestly, not even necessarily because of any corrupt SEC stuff or anything like that. I think mainly just because I don't know. I mean, like, how needed is it necessarily? I don't know. I mean, I think when we might see him appear more and be doing more streams is when things really take off in the bull market here. And I don't think that that's in the next 20 days. But whatever. I'm sure Crypto 7 has his reasons. But yeah, I mean, we all want to see him back. I mean, I certainly want to see him streaming again. We got the cool one on Christmas, which everybody liked a whole bunch. So, hey, the guy's out there tweeting and stuff like that. He's repping PulseChain. He's dunking on Solana today. He's he's doing Richard Hart things. He may just not be streaming them, but I do get it. I mean, we are spoiled. I mean, there are hours and hours and hours and hours of old Richard Hart stuff out there, which, funnily enough, we kind of didn't talk about this. Not that it's that big a thing, but he posted that interview with, I'm now forgetting who it was. Just another guy that he schooled basically on all things crypto here like a week or two ago, but he uploaded it to the Richard Hart YouTube.
That was done. Years old. That was done by a hexologist. When they originally recorded that video, the audio was terrible, and there was another recording of it that was done. They fixed the audio, and that's why it got re-uploaded. So Hexologist has access to his YouTube channel for when he was doing thumbnails and things like that for him.
Right.
So he just fixed it and re-uploaded it. But it was good to hear him destroy that guy and pretty much teach him, about liquidity and order books and all of that type of thing. It was good to hear the old Richard Hart in rare form, right?
Yes, yeah, but I mean, that was my point. Is like we're spoiled with so many hours of content from him out there, and
Yeah.
he has even reiterated that himself. Like, how much do you guys want from me? There's plenty of stuff out there if you want to watch it. But I get it. People want to see him again. We'll see how that happens. But hey, it's not like he's not around. And again, anybody that ever thought that he was on the run or not,
Right.
was sorely mistaken, I think. But
Well, the one
go
thing too is that he would always just spit so much fire, like education. We all learned so much from him on what to do, what not to do, things to keep an eye out for, what to stay away from. There was so much educational stuff, and it wasn't always, I wasn't always a fan of the debate format. More so,
You didn't like the Peter Schiff debate?
well,
I'm just
I
kidding.
just it was okay, but I always watched this stuff more for educational things to
Yeah.
learn about why Hex is better than Bitcoin. What are the problems that Bitcoin has had? There's a lot of things that happened before I started. I wasn't aware of half of that stuff before I started listening to Richard, and all the different hacks of all these different platforms and different blockchains. Perfect example. You got Solana down now. What, the 12th time? I think since it's launched. Was it 12? Is that happened today? Or 11 or 12 maybe?
Wait, what are you talking about launch? Sorry, I was reading the strange comment.
The Solana, just Solana
Oh
in general.
It was this morning. It was
Yeah.
early this morning that happened.
Right,
Yeah,
but that's what, 11 or 12
Oh,
times that
Jesus. Sorry.
it's been down since it launched.
Boy, yeah, it's probably been about that. I think that it's just been so long now since it went down. I don't know, 6 months. I'm not really sure how long
Yeah.
that people have forgotten or something. But yeah, it's been plenty. I mean, it's been plenty of time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, not good.
I don't.
Not good
It's
for
not going to
blockchain.
flip. It's not going to flip ETH. That's a discussion for a little bit later, but we can get into that. I wanted to ask you this, since we are looking at the charts here. Let's refocus on those. There's been, we've talked about this, but like the lack of interest seemingly as opposed to the last bull cycle, obviously, because all there was Hex in this ecosystem. There wasn't an ecosystem really outside of Hex. Now we've got an L1. Now we've got an awesome DEX. We've got all these cool things built with Hex in mind. But we're seeing Hex not necessarily perform very well against Pulse, and while Pulse has kind of pumped up here, of course, things are liquidity bonded. The Hexes did come up with it, but it's not necessarily performing really, really well. And like Sami the other day was just talking about how, and again, you can do this with any time frames. I mean, you can pick like start point A, end point B, and make up whatever narrative you want to. But he is right that in 3 years, it's 0% return as far as Hex goes. Now,
if you weren't staking.
Yes, I was just going to say, not including staking or anything, even though that wouldn't change it too much, I don't believe. But as far as the actual return, but what do you make of this? I mean, like, is Hex boring to people now? Like the long term, is it cycle 2? Just that part of the narrative. And I mean, obviously, people are more obsessed with shiny new toys like PulseChain and PulseX. Obviously, you and I think that people are mistaken to not value Hex, but also, as I say in the intro to our show, the market is the market. The people make the market, kind of.
Sure.
So what do you make of that? I mean, obviously, you're staked out long term. I'm staked out long term. Many people that were here last cycle have lots of vested interest in Hex because they are staked out long term. But yeah, what do you make of that? And do you think Hex can recover against Pulse?
You have to. So it's a tough one. I think people have lost interest. It isn't the new shiny object. It's the store of value. It's a boring proposition. It really is. But I think, once people start making some money, I see a lot of that end up going back into Hex. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a late bloomer this cycle. If you remember, the the bull run for Hex last cycle, it was compressed into like 2 or 3 months. It was very short. You know, it went from whatever it was, 10 cents to 50 cents in very short period of time. So, you know, I don't think it's going to be a just steady climb of new people just jumping in because, oh, check this out. You know, I think what it's going to take is people that are coming into PulseChain because they see all these other things happening. I think the new people that are out there talking about it will get people in here. They'll turn some profits, and then they'll be like, "Oh, what's this? This thing over here? Oh, well, it's a store of value, and you can mint more of your own. That way." Again, it's not exciting. But it serves its purpose. It does what it's supposed to do. You know, with the trustless yield, and I think people will find their way to it. It's not gonna be one of those things that's why they come here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I would not be surprised because we did see this when the ecosystem got its first kind of leg up from the lows, where EHEX led the way and it was actually pumping the hardest right out of the gate. I think that at any time, who knows, an interested party or entity may be interested in really sending hex, honestly, against this other stuff and reminding people who's boss a little bit here. So,
well, it wouldn't take much to
don't get
pump
caught
it.
off guard.
It won't take
No.
much to pump it. The liquidity's thin. There isn't a whole lot for sale. So when it runs, and you know that's kind of what it took to set it off. The last cycle was the Godwill came in and just bought a ton, sent it, and people got left behind. So you know things like that happen. Whales make a big difference, and it only takes one or two to come in to make a huge difference in the price, where maybe eyes kind of get focused back over there and people rotate back out again. You know, people are always rotating for other things, you know, playing that game rather than just steadfast, holding the things that they believe in. So,
Yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be an interesting ride. But what I would say, and not financial advice, just what we do. But I wouldn't want to be caught off guard not holding hex. I mean, I have no choice really. But I have chosen with the big three assets for, if you want to say two different hexes. Have chosen to just kind of split it evenly before the market really took off, and I'm glad I have it that way. So I don't want to be caught off guard. So
right.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the ecosystem is right now. Things are kind of flushing out, but we'll see where we are over the next few weeks. But certainly still bullish, obviously mid long term. So if you guys are enjoying the stream, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate all you guys being here. Active chat so far tonight, lots going on. I did forget to mention the poll. There's a certain interested party in poll questions that's in our chat, I know. So what's your opinion on Ben Armstrong, aka BitBoy, covering PulseChain? Do you love it? It's great exposure for Pulse. Hate it? He's dishonest, or are you just simply neutral and really don't care? So far, most people love it, 63%. I kind of find myself split between the love it. I think I'm probably mostly in the love it, great exposure for Pulse camp, and also a little neutral. It doesn't make too much of a difference to me, but I got to realize if it's something I'm that invested in, it is a good thing. And then only 8% of people are saying hate it, he's dishonest. And well, I didn't want to get into that as a topic yet because that's kind of the meat of our show, but I think we just should because that's what the thumbnail's all about. It's our biggest conversation. I'm going to skip this other garbage we don't really care about and get right to that right now with you, Ewok. So first off, I think I know where you sit, but where do you sit kind of on that poll? And I'll set you up with some other stuff because I got tons of stuff with Ben Armstrong and Wendy O kind of coming into this ecosystem, and Wendy O was on with Corey Costa last week. But where do you fall on that? And what are your thoughts on our poll results so far, Ewok?
So this goes pretty deep.
It does.
For the first thing I have to preface is we all know Ben lost his show, the BitBoy show and all that good stuff, lost a lot of his followers, had to switch to a new channel, all that good stuff. So nobody is naive to think that he isn't trying to build his new channel based on the backs of hexagons. I hope at the same time people aren't thinking that we're naive enough not to see it. It doesn't mean we both can't scratch each other's back. I'm in favor of it because I know he reaches out to an audience that we don't normally have. I saw that. And you know, it can't be a bad thing. You know, we've always even said even bad press is good press, right? So anybody that's reaching out that can build an audience like that, to the people, you know, he's still in big with Ripple. I believe he's still in big with Solana. Those types of communities, if he's talking about it a lot, the odds of some of them coming in, it can't hurt. You never know when a developer might see it. If he mentions how cheap it is to develop, it's the same code as Ethereum essentially, but just cheaper, and it's better to run those type of platforms on and things like that. 1-2 developers come over and start building something. That's great, right? You get a whale or two involved. That's great. Now, it's not going to hurt. Like, I don't think he can really say anything worse than what we've dealt with the last 4 or 5 years. That's going to hurt. So, you know, people are just like, yeah, but he's only going to be shilling his coin. You know, okay, fine. You've got to watch out for the Ben coin or whatever he may be pushing. That's fine. It's just like any other influencer that is on any other channel. You know, Ivan on Tech is a great example. He's been talking about this stuff for a while, but he covers other things. So again, there's no difference. Wendy has had Richard on her stream. They've talked, you know, we had Corey Costa just had her on. I don't mind Wendy. All of these people are touching a different audience that we may not. Exposure is good. So I'm perfectly fine with it. You know, like I said, a developer or a whale or two come into this network and it was well worth it. So, you know, he's looking for a new home. I mean, you know, I don't know how well the XRP people treat him. I'm not sure. I see some negative comments a lot when he posts things from everybody. I mean, he's definitely burned some bridges, but you know, he always will have his regular followers too. So I'm in favor of it. We just kind of, you know, got to keep our guards up against anything malicious. I don't think he's up to anything malicious. And as long as, you know, he's onboarding new people and there's new wallets being created every day, what can it hurt? It's, you know, I think it's good.
I'm totally with you. And yeah, I mean, you know, Ben obviously has an interesting past. And, you know, Crypto Coffee just the other day. And again, like you said here, there's so many elements to this and we're going to get to all of them. But Coffee was just on with Dane and Corey Geary the other day. And it was a really good interview. And he divulged. So here's the other big thing. He kind of divulged after Corey Costa had Wendy O on. Apparently, there was some sort of private meeting of the minds between Ben, Wendy O, Corey Costa, and Crypto Coffee. Mm-hmm. And Coffee was on with Corey Geary, too many Corys, Corey Geary and Dane the other day. And he basically said a couple things that they all I mean, just the fact that they all met together like that is awesome. But basically, he said that some of their plans were working together to get like, because Richard Hart's talked about this and tweeted about it recently, but get like a USDC or Tether, talk to somebody involved with USDC to get it natively launched on PulseChain. I guess that was one of the topics of conversation that they talked about, Coffee said, among other things. I'm sure a lot of it was just purely these ideas that Ben has around content creation purely. He's talked about like just a, you know, I guess he doesn't know we're out here, but just talking about like a Hex or a PulseChain only podcast, which we've been doing for 2.5 years or so.
Right.
But it's fine. People know and like Ben. Well, they know him anyway, more than us. So, you know, I'm in favor of it. I'm glad he's doing all this stuff. And he knows it's a big community and he's trying to tap into it. He's talking to some of the major players. He even said that he was interested in having some of the best, you know, he relied on our community to tell him like, hey, who would it be good to have on, you know, and I'm sure we would recommend, you know, Funding Jim, Rags. I mean, I could go on and on with the amount of people have on. But yeah, what do you make of some of those ideas from Ben? And then also this whole idea, I want your take on this, but this documentary idea on how, like, why Hex is not a security and going through the Howey test stuff. I know I'm throwing everything at you, but as you said, there's so many angles. So what are all your thoughts on these things?
I did forget one thing that he had talked about too, and that was coin market cap and CoinGecko, getting it listed properly. That was one of his missions as well. You know, he's brought it up several times on stream, showing what the market cap is and where it technically should be ranked. That was another big thing that would have a huge impact. As far as the documentary, man, I don't know if he's qualified to be doing that. You know, we have a great documentary out there. His is a little bit different in the line of, like you said, proving that Hex isn't a security. I don't know if he's qualified to speak on that. I mean, we all are. We all know what the Howey test is. We know, you know, we've all determined that it fails legs of the Howey. Therefore, it's not a security. Let's let the judge and all that rule on that situation. You know, again, anything with more eyes, it can't hurt, right? I mean, unless there's a bunch of misinformation. And that's why I was really glad when I heard him say, well, who should I be talking to? Who are the best people so that I can get my facts straight and learn about this stuff? You know, I don't know if you saw today, but he posted a lot of screen shares, which I'm not always a fan of showing conversations that have happened with people in the past, but how they really just didn't want him talking about it. So, you know, again, we'll give the guy a chance. We'll you know, keep up our guard at the same time. But yeah, I'm in favor of it all, man. Anything that he can do to help out, whether it be getting it listed properly on the ranking sites or just getting the word out there. I like the fact that he's trying, at least. So, you know, he's trying to rebrand. Let's help him out. We need to help these people. You know, I know people are very guarded. People don't want to let these people who've spoken badly in the past into the community or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. We're at the point now where we are a layer one. We are not protecting people. It's not our job to say, oh, you should really stay away from that. You're going to get wrecked. You know, it's a layer one. You're going to have scams and it's going to happen. And people need to just learn their lessons about what real crypto is, what real DeFi is. You know, we have some very good things out there, like the Pulse Police. They will audit contracts. They look at things and they tell you if there's red flags. If there's red flags, maybe stay away, you know, or throw your money in. It's up to you. I mean, we can't stop people from making bad choices. And that's another reason why I think eventually, you know, back to what we were saying earlier, people will funnel back to Hex. You know, that hashtag Hex user unaffected is very popular, and it will come back when people start getting wrecked on stupid things, shiny object syndrome. And, you know, they'll find their way home.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. And then I wanted to see what you made of this. And I think I DM'd you about it today, Ewok. But Ben today, and I did think this was interesting because he obviously personally gets attacked a lot for this stuff. And who knows the whole story? I really don't care. But this is what he tweeted anyway. He talked about, and this could go for other influencers as well, you know, that maybe we should have empathy for. I feel it's very hard for me to do that. But like, who knows, the coin bureaus in the world and a lot of the other people that go out of their way to shit on Hex actively.
Yeah.
But Ben today tweeted, and I mean, really, he only showed screenshots of what the guy tweeted. He didn't show any private conversations or anything. But this Nick, no idea how to pronounce his last name. I don't know if it's actually Diamond or Dimondi or Diamond, whatever. But a guy that was the, I don't know, coordinated the content for the BitBoy channel. And then somebody was like, well, if it's the BitBoy channel, why is somebody else making the content? I don't know. But he basically showed all these tweets of this guy over time. He was the guy that coordinated everything at the Hit Network or whatever it's called. And he just posted all these receipts of him. Just this Nick guy was just shitting on Hex all the time, making fun of, you know, investors in the community and stuff like that. just kind of the typical stuff that like a Bob Lucas or any other one of these types would do. But what do you make of that? Because that is an angle that I will say we don't really, I guess we get into a little bit, but I mean, most people, me included, are so quick to jump to, like I just criticized Guy from Coin Bureau, which, let's face it, I mean, he's actually tweeted that Hex is a Ponzi and all this, so I don't really respect him very much. But, you know, some of these other people, they may just being hushed by other people that are paying them. You know what I mean? And we've kind of had that conversation, but sometimes we jump just to like, hey, you're who I see on camera. You're the one that's not talking about it. I hate you. You know what I mean? And it's interesting that Ben showed this. Like, hey, I would have been interested in talking to this a little more. I hung out with Richard before and stuff like that. But you know, behind the scenes, I'm being hushed to a degree. So, what did you make of that?
Well, it's true. It's totally true. We know it's true. RG3 has met a lot of these people, a lot of these guys when they were at Bitcoin Miami. They came face to face with a lot of them, and they were all cool to them. And they flat out said, you know, we're not really supposed to talk about it. We're paid and managed and told what to do shows about, and Hex isn't one of them. So, you know, we know it's true. We know that the gatekeeping is real. They don't want it because it hurts their ethos. It hurts them talking about these new coins or whatever it may be, where they get paid for it. You know, it's a fact of life. It's just like politics. You know, a lot of those guys are kind of paid to pass laws, whether it be in favor of one thing or another. And if it hurts their model, they don't like it. So, I mean, it is what it is. We know it's a fact. The walls will slowly come down. It's the same reason CoinMarketCap doesn't want it listed either, because they can't make money off of it. They were never given an allocation of tokens to list on their exchange. So, you know, it's all this political stuff in the background, and we know that it's there. We know it sucks, and all we can do is just keep shouting from the rooftops like we're doing, and eventually people will hear us, and they will come and they will say, why is all this stuff happening? Why are you being hidden, and why are you being gatekept? Well, we've been saying it for years, right? I mean, we know it's true. We know what's out there, and the backstory, but you know, people are slowly finding out. And you know, Liberty or Death just said it right there. He does bring some legitimacy to it, to a lot of people. He goes after things. He's all over the place. So yeah, it can't be a bad thing. Again, somebody else mentioned it in the chat earlier, and we just got to approach it with humbleness. Be humble. Be happy that some of these people are letting their guard down and talking about it and changing their tune. You know, over the last 2 years, I could think of 5 or 6, maybe not by name specifically, that used to hate it, you know, and now they're talking about it, or they have talked about it. That one kid, I can't remember his name, bigger guy, with the blockchain boy.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's
Eric
one.
Hartman.
Yeah. There's been several that I can see, I can picture them and, you know, think about them. But it's happening. It's slowly happening. It will continue to happen. You know, we just got to stop the infighting and the stupid bullshitting back and forth. I get Twitter X is a degen type platform, and when you're in a silo like that, it's going to happen. Hopefully the outsiders maybe don't see that as much as I do. But it is kind of embarrassing when you've got people that are of the same mindset, usually with the same goal in mind. Why? I just don't get the point of like nitpicking each other and tearing each other down. And, you know, you've got people preaching how religious they are, and yet they keep tearing people down. I don't get, I just don't understand it. It's not what I like to see. And, you know, I consider a lot of these guys friends. I've met many of them in person. I don't like it. And, you know, I hate to see it, but that's
we were
just my
talking.
sense.
Well, we were talking about it in the green room. I mean, I think a lot of times it just is simple like lack of things going on in real life or personal life or something like that, and the importance of Twitter is just way too high for
Yeah.
some people. And that that's not unique to Hexaco. I mean, it's not unique to crypto. It's not unique. It's every. Sure. I mean, it's the vast majority of the population. So yeah, you're going to have that. You know me, I always like the musical comparisons on here, but like when we talk about like, okay, Hex was your favorite underground band that you and your buddies would go see and nobody really knew about, but they were the next big thing. And, we discovered them together and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, what the hell? They signed with a major record label. And then you got all these like faux fans coming in saying that they, you think of like, to use Metallica as a vehicle because everybody was claiming how they sold out. And then that terrible fucking documentary, some kind of monster or whatever, where they all like whine like babies and stuff, and then Lars with the Napster stuff. But I mean, before that, it was like, oh yeah, Metallica, and their original stuff, the Black Album, and then I'm not a huge Metallica fan. I do love the kind of music. I'm just not a huge Metallica fan. But Kill 'Em all that stuff. Everybody loved them. And then later on, it's like, oh, they're sellouts and everything. So you're going to see that dynamic here too. What did Liberty or Death say here?
Yeah, hit the nail on the head. Nobody talked about Hex because they weren't paid. Exchanges aren't listing it because you got to pay to play. And that's, this RH tokens are truly the people's crypto, which 100%. I've said it all along. It's going to take longer to build this, but it's going to be grassroots. It's organic. And once it gets going, you can't stop it, man. It's not something that a bunch of people are being paid to talk about. And then when they're not paid to talk about it anymore, they go away and it just fizzles out. When you build something like this, it just gets such a head of steam and it can't be stopped, and we're going on 5 years now of flawless operation for a lot of these products. We will be noticed, and we can only reap the rewards later. I mean, you just got to steadfast, keep your eye on the prize and keep going.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think we're destined for very good things here. So yeah, just keep at it. It's very hard to block out the noise, especially in crypto, because there's so much shit just flying by you all the time. But yeah, just keep at it, and appreciate new people coming to the ecosystem. So if you guys are enjoying the stream, just do us a favor. Support us, support Real DeFi, support PulseChain by hitting the like button. We got 85 watching at the moment, 54 likes. Let's get that 1-to-1 ratio. If you guys could do that, we greatly do appreciate it. I'm skipping some of the earlier boring stuff that maybe we'll get to later about kind of macroeconomics and stuff to get to some more interesting things that people here actually want to talk about. And that is the issue that we've seen the last week with some of our favorite tracking apps for these investments, which is GoPulse, which has done so much to onboard the PulseChain. Hex Scout, which has now been out, in website and app form for, I want to say like a month or two or so now, kind of the de facto replacement of the Staker app, which is kind of going away totally. Even though I still think the original Staker was the GOAT of all of these things.
Yeah.
But basically anything that is tracking specifically Hex stakes and or other things as well just has not been working appropriately over the last week due to an API issue that we didn't, I don't think you knew, Ewok. I didn't, and I don't know how many people did, but apparently like everybody relies on this Alex McWhirter API to get this data on all these tracking apps because they're coming out saying like, oh, hey, apologies for the inconvenience. We don't have Hex stakes up right now. And it's an API issue. And then they're referencing Alex on Twitter. Alex is talking about him creating a new one. His last tweet about it was, I want to say like on Friday or so. I was thinking maybe this would be resolved by Sunday, where we haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen Alex say anything else since then, but apparently he's working on getting a new one going. But what do you make of the fact that his API, I guess, is the only thing that feeds these systems? I mean, what the creation of those is obviously over our head probably, but I just found it interesting that like that was the single point of failure when it comes to tracking the Hex stakes anyway. So yeah, what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, I knew he had quite the server set up already anyway, and then he went and expanded it. The last I saw, whether it was Thursday or Friday, you're right, it was last week one day, was that he was resyncing the network. And that does take several days to get all the nodes and everything like that to sync. I thought that he had said that it was about to be fixed or done, that it was just a matter of him waiting for it to sync up. This is the last that I had heard. But yeah, I do find it crazy that all of these people are relying on him. Like I have trouble believing that it's the only one out there that they could use. But I guess, when certain things are pointed in that direction, does it really mess it up if anybody else has it? Is it a different format? Is it in different, there's just, I'm sure there's a lot of variables that come into play with it. But yeah, I was surprised as well to find out that a lot of these things are using it. Now, the staker.app online platform is still working. You can plug your addresses into that, and they work fine, as it is on there. But yes, Go Pulse and Hex Scout, the portfolio trackers, unfortunately, are still down. I thought I had seen yesterday that Hex Scout,
the website,
is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like Hex Scout on like if you would use Safari on an iPhone or use it on Chrome on your PC or whatever, the website seems to be showing them and every other token that they're able to show. But the app doesn't do it. Go Pulse in no form is able to do it. So I'm not sure what functionality the website of Hex Scout has that the rest of the stuff doesn't. But
well, I think like you said, the API is probably a compressed version of it. In order for your cell phone to reach out, read the whole blockchain, it could have a little bit of issues doing that, where the API is kind of condensing things for you, and making it a lot simpler to load. But yeah, the portfolio on Hex Scout is working on the website, so at least we have that. It's not completely down. You can still keep an eye on things, and I see we banned somebody.
That was me. I don't. A lot of weird delusional stuff. I'm not real sure what was going on there, but basically there was threats against people like us made that it seemed like he was rooting on the SEC and the FBI. So I just got rid of him. Yeah.
All right. Good for him.
But yeah. But
hey, they need fans too, right?
They do. Yeah, they really do, actually.
Especially with the amount of losses they've taken.
Yes. Yeah. So they'll be proud to have him. But yeah, it is, and we've sung the praises of both these apps anyway, as far as like tracking this stuff.
Sure.
They're both, they've done a great job, but it also, sometimes there's some features that, they're still lacking in some features, and you still want like the perfect app that just, we don't have these issues with. And I think it's just like, people might just want consistency because we didn't necessarily have it with the Staker app. It was basically given up on. The second version of it was basically always faulty. And then like, a couple of months into these, and now we have this issue and stuff. And, it's just kind of, it leaves a little to be desired. But that said, they've done so much at the same time that it's like, who the hell am I? How can I blame them really? So,
you're talking about Staker, right?
Well, I both. I was talking about it, but I mean, like with Go Pulse and Hex Scout, I mean, like ideally you wouldn't have this kind of thing happening, or like why is there only that single point of failure? You know what I mean? There's no other way to get an API, I guess.
Well, again, it's above our heads, and I'm sure there's a reason why they haven't done their own. Especially Go Pulse, they seem very motivated to do a lot of their own stuff. But I don't know, the reason behind it or why it is the only one. It doesn't make sense. It could be very expensive to put something like that up too. So hard to say.
Yep, but I'm sure they'll get it ironed out here soon. Real quick, and we do talk about this, but from Neil Snowden here, Ed's brother. Any views on Icosa and Hedron? I mean, we love it. We both hold it. Mainly Hedron from minting, I think, over time. I've also market bought it before. I market bought Icosa, the PulseChain version, even though that both these tokens, Hedron and Icosa, are practically they've been hovering at parity across both chains. But I hopped in on Icosa at 3 cents on PulseChain before this crazy move that it's done. But yeah, we love them both. I mean, it's super leverage on Hex recovery. and yeah, I've bought a lot of both of them. So what do you think about that, Ewok?
Yeah, I think the new platform that Alex is designing is is drawing everything to parity. I was telling a buddy the other day about this. Is if you're going to market buy one of them, go for the cheaper one, right? Whether it's the Ethereum side or the Pulse side, because once this thing launches and you can use them to bid on the other chain, they're going to be equivalently, or they're going to be worth the same thing. So it makes sense to always buy the cheaper one, whichever one is on sale, if you're going to market buy. I do recommend, if you have hex stakes, obviously, before you end stake, make sure that claim your Hedron, claim your COM, and then stake your Hedron where you can earn your Icosa. It's just, there's so many things to do to earn a lot of this stuff for free that I really don't like market buying any of it. When I can earn it, if you do it the right way, you can earn your own. Now, if it does go on sale and there's a good, a good sale, a fire sale, definitely jump in, with a little bit. But, I've always recommended, like I said, staking things and earning it by doing another action. A lot of times you earn some of this other stuff. So I did have a head start. Maybe some of you that don't, or just coming into the market, don't have some larger stakes, or you didn't get to claim on some of those 10x or 9x bonuses in the beginning of Hedron, like the early people did. So I do understand if you're playing catch up, but in that case, definitely go with whichever one's cheaper, because once this thing launches, like I said, they're going to be hitting parity, because you'll be able to essentially get the same value no matter which chain you bid on. If you're going to bid on the HSIs, or at that point they'll be what, HMIs or
HMI. Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, love them both, support both for sure. It's a good question, Neil. Super chat here from Scott, and I'm going to and thank you for the super chat, Scott. And I will say that I have not. I know B Roots, correct me if I'm wrong, has been talking up Blast. I'm pretty sure. I don't know word one about it, but I'll just trust Scott here. He says, love what the Blast devs from ETH new on PulseChain are doing with their new on-ramp in progress and promoting via CoinMarketCap. Trading View, Crypto Daily, etc., all about PulseChain adoption. I don't know anything about it. I got to be honest. I got to look into it. I think B Ruse has talked about it, but I didn't look into what it was or anything. So I don't know if you have any insight onto that, Ewok.
I don't really know much about it either. I have not looked into it at all. So.
Well, yeah, appreciate the money, Scott, but neither one of us know anything about it. So apologies for that. You fill us in. I mean, yeah, I would definitely love to hear more about it, and you've intrigued me enough to look into it for sure more after the show, though. And I definitely will do that. So really appreciate it anyway, Scott. We'll check it out.
Is it? Well, it might be one of the platforms. So if I'm not mistaken, it might be one of the platforms that I saw the other day. There was something where you could take all of your, like if you had liquidity pairings on different markets, and you could take it and just basically hit one button and it would pull all your profits from all the liquidity. Is that the same thing? Is that what Blast is?
I don't know.
I saw something the other day, yesterday, maybe it was today even, that had a cool chart. It was a visual of all your liquidity pairings and all the fees that you earned. And you could essentially hit one button and it would claim all of your incentive token, your yield from pairing liquidity, things like that. Is that if that's what Blast is, Scott, let us know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing I never remember how to pronounce his last name, but Ian Heinisch from the co-host of B Root's show. He was talking about Blast will blow people's mind with gains in passive pulse. So there's definitely a passive angle to this. Yeah, I sorry for being unprepared. I haven't looked into this yet, but we appreciate it for sure.
Sure.
And I'll check into it and watch some of the B Root stuff on it here because I know he's been talking about it lately. So RH Max, welcome in. How you doing, man? Yeah, so thank you again to Scott. This is a wild show tonight because we have a really active chat. We're hitting that up and then trying to also stay on the task we've created. But frankly, I don't give a shit about the FOMC or any of that stuff all that much. Let me just check and make sure we hit. Oh, I wanted to get to this comment before I missed it because it was a topic we were going to get to. Liberty or death. Again, not familiar with you, but you're bringing the heat tonight, so appreciate it. He said, is anybody buying ZKZX, the Tornado Cash token? I really want to, but I'm hesitant because the U.S. government literally blacklisted any wallet that interacted with Tornado Cash and wonder if it could happen. So you are correct. The U.S. government did do that. They, as far as we know, the guy that created Tornado Cash is still in prison to this day. And if for anybody that's not familiar, doesn't know what Tornado Cash is, it was basically a mixer where you can send tokens into it. They mix it up so you don't know what wallet it came from or where it's going or who's tied to it or anything like that anymore. ZKZX is a version of this that's on PulseChain. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who created it. I don't know anything about it. As far as the token, I didn't even know there was a token. I just last week heard about there being this on PulseChain. But I hadn't even realized there was a token until I saw somebody tweeting about it the other day. But we were going to talk about this anyway, so thank you for the question. And yeah, some people are excited about it. And you know, if the U.S. hadn't unilaterally decided to just completely and utterly murder Tornado Cash, I mean, yeah, it'd be like, oh, cool, this is a good product. I'm glad it's here. But the SEC and DOJ sent Tornado Cash creator again to prison. Some people are kind of split on whether to use this or not, exactly like what you just said, liberty or death. So, Ewok, I know you are kind of more familiar with like the some of the longer term stuff with Tornado Cash and some of the inner workings as far as what ended up happening there. But yeah, what do you make of this? I mean, I do think it's something to exercise caution on for sure. I didn't and will likely not buy any of this or have anything to do with it. But what do you make of it, Ewok?
So the token itself, I don't see any harm in using or buying. You know, the platform itself, I would be careful, especially while there is an open investigation going on still with the SEC. It's worrisome. I was hoping it wouldn't. I heard about it coming out, and I was like, "Ooh, this isn't the best of timing." I don't think, but if you're only using PulseChain and only using Coast, maybe reach out to the Coast guys and say, "Hey, any risk in using, the ZKZX? Is there a chance of anything being blacklisted at that time? Because if you do and you blacklist your wallet, it essentially is the same wallet address on PulseChain as Ethereum. So not only are you, you know what I mean, you're hurting the whole thing on both sides. I'm skeptical of these things. While we need privacy for certain reasons, Richard goes on to list the many reasons of why a mixer is needed. And then you have Elizabeth Warren, who goes on and says all these things are being done illegally with it and, blows it way out of proportion rather than for, using it for privacy for features that it should be used for. If you have a company, you don't want to, and you're paying in crypto, you don't want everybody else to know what everybody else is making. You want your vendors to not know what you're paying for other stuff. So there's a lot of things and reasons why it's necessary. I do worry, though, that the government will overstep yet again and start blacklisting. We don't even have stable coins yet. I mean, there's a lot of things that we want to get, we want to build. And I don't want this to interfere with any of that progress. I just really hope that it doesn't. So, I'll be cautiously optimistic about it, but I'll probably watch from the sidelines. I'm not going to participate quite yet.
That's my take on it too. I mean, I'm certainly not worried about anything to do with the SEC or anything like that. Just the fact that a tornado cash type mechanism exists on PulseChain. I mean, I'm not worried about anything to do with that. I mean, it's something that's on the blockchain. It's not something that it's not a Richard Hart product. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about that at all.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to touch it or anything like that. Again, it would be interesting if they didn't already completely, ruin the chances of being able to use something like that in the United States. But, it is what it is. So it's interesting that the price went up. I know people are tweeting about that, but yeah, that's about it.
That's for sure. It has had a nice run up. If you look at that chart, it's
Mhm.
looking pretty sexy.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Maybe take some profits because it's looking overbought right now.
Pretty zexy, one might
Yeah.
say. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's see where to go next. This chat is awesome tonight. We appreciate all you guys being here. Smash the like if you are still here. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate you guys being here. A couple of quick things I want to hit on. Let's hit on this because this is a big one. And we're going to tie this in a bit with the Ben Armstrong, the Wendy O stuff, but it is different. Okay. So not to call anybody out necessarily, but this is kind of, I guess we'll use this person as a vehicle for the kind of stuff that you will see now that prices are going up. Okay. So I don't know how many people in the chat will be familiar with Gunther, who is somebody who, and you will be able to fill this in a lot more than I, Ewok, because he was around like in the very early days of Hex. But he became like Wolverine or something like that. I don't remember what his name was, but his name's Gunther. I don't know if that's his real name. I don't know. But anyway, he became Wolverine. He's the guy that created Pulse Doge, which seems like years ago at this point. I think it was out when we start. Yeah, I guess it was, but I'm talking like a decade. But he created that. I think, did he also create Pulse Bitcoin, or did I make that up?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
He sure did.
Not
and then
Bitcoin, but
and then also created I think it was called ASIC, the token then that you purchased for the mining power for the Pulse Bitcoin. So he had a little operation going. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I'll finish just setting up who he is, and then I'll let you go. So, yeah, anyway, he was a guy who was around and like entrenched in the Hex community like the last time around. And as far as anybody knew, his accounts have kind of been deleted. Got into a lot of mixed it up with people, a lot of drama and stuff like that. Haven't seen him around in a long time. Suddenly he resurfaces like a week ago and is tweeting all this stuff like Hex saved my life, was literally, I think, one of the tweets, and Hex, I love Hex, and, long-term staking. And, he's getting a lot of adulation and followers right back and stuff like this. A little bit melodramatic in my opinion, but made Pulse Doge, all that stuff. I'll let you kind of fill in, the blanks with anything that I missed there kind of about him. And I know you had some points about when you see somebody like this come in, if you haven't been around this ecosystem or even around crypto long enough, and you see somebody come back in like this, I mean, a lot of people don't even know who he is and don't know that he's coming back in or any history. So talk about like kind of treading lightly with certain people that you do see in this kind of community.
Yeah. So it goes way back. So Gunther was there at the very, very start of Hex. He was one of the guys who provided one of the very first audits on the OA, like back in the very early day. Was kind of the same way. He was a very RH maxi type guy, well respected at that point. And then, we started, once Richard decided to launch PulseChain, he launched this token called Pulse Bitcoin, or Pulse Doge, I think it was.
Yeah.
And essentially, he rewarded the, I think the squids and the dolphins the most, and then kind of tapered it down. Sharks didn't get as much as the whales, or sharks got more than the whales, and then the whales got less, or, it tapered. It was like a triangle where the dolphins and the sharks were, or the dolphins and the squids were at the top, and then each side kind of went down as far as how much you got with an airdrop. And those tokens got up to be a fair amount. I forget whether they were $8-10 a piece or something like that.
Yeah.
And many people, I think, even if you had stakes out there, the minimum you got was 100 of them. So, it was a fairly nice size airdrop. Then he created the Pulse Bitcoin. Yes, Gunny Boo. Then Pulse Bitcoin came along, and then it was, like I said, the ASIC token. But either way, back to it. He was one of the very large dumpers of Hedron. In fact, signed a transaction on there that said something I'll forever dump on your heads, because
I didn't know this.
he was a very large holder of Hex at the time. He still might be. I know he cashed a lot of that out and was funding the Pulse Doge thing and trying to keep the price up and manipulate it a lot. And he got some people wrecked. He did. Again, when people come back to this community after things, and we're going to see this more and more as time goes on, there are going to be people that have gotten out. Prime example, BitBoy had a bag that he sold, and I think he ended up selling $60,000 worth on a $300 or $500 purchase at the beginning. Ended up turning it into 60 grand. So we're going to see this. We're going to see people come back. We're going to see them say that I made a mistake or whatever, And the one thing I commented, because Funding Jim was giving him credit and saying, I like your transparency. And my comment right below his was, actions speak louder than words. People can come in and say all kind of things, make it sound good, whatever it may be, but I'm going to watch what you do. I've been here. I know that people got hurt from the actions of him. I know people lost a lot of money believing in the things that he was saying, because he was selling Hex and saying, this isn't going to work out or whatever it may be. And people followed him. Guys like that have some clout are going to have followers, and people are going to listen to everything they say, because they are smart. So, you have to be careful, and you have to watch, and you have to, I always watch from afar. I don't say much. I'm not going to call him out, call him a scammer, or say welcome. I'm not going to give him a hug, or anything like crazy like that, and say welcome.
Do you know where
back.
he lives? Do you
But
even know where he lives to give him a hug?
No, I was
No.
being facetious there. Again, you watch what they do. Watch from afar. I stay out of the drama. I really do. I avoid it like the plague. I don't like it. Some people thrive on it. I'm the opposite. I don't like it. So yeah, we'll have to see how he turns out. And you have to respect some of these guys that come back. Maybe he is reformed. Maybe he means well. Maybe he's just looking for a place to fall. Some people need that too, and I completely get it, and that's why I don't want to shit on him for coming back or anything like that. But when people do burn other people in the community, you've got to watch with a little bit of a guarded vision there of seeing what they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is important to know that stuff. I mean, yeah, obviously anybody's allowed to come back in and do whatever they want to do, and be part of the community and stuff like that. It's just a caution to some people that if somebody may have potentially harmed investors in the past, that there's a chance that could happen again. So just act accordingly, basically. So
yeah, and if he does, like Liberty just said it, perfect thing. If he starts another project, run.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see here. We can go a couple more directions tonight. There's so many other things we wanted to talk about. But let's just talk about the FOMC thing real quick, because I do think it is a little important. So after we had Frank Molina on last week, the next day We had the Fed stand pat as we expected, did not cut rates or do anything. That wasn't really the interesting part, though. It was more so some of their comments afterwards that really sounded like the rate cuts will definitely not be coming in March. Now, that I don't think many people were expecting them to. You and I have been claiming May or at the latest, like maybe late summer all along. But with them kind of paving the way that it will not happen in March, I think there is a chance that we could get, up to the halving, as we've been talking about, like a nice little altcoin run as a result of this. But before they do cut rates and enter some people into a bloodbath for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we could see, and we both, I think, agree that here in this coming quarter and into the spring, we will see some bullish action for sure. We've been saying May all along. That seems even more likely at this point for the Fed to cut rates. If you're new to this or maybe haven't been paying attention, because we and everybody has been tracking it since basically 2022 when they were hiking rates and then tapering them off. The next Fed meeting is March I think it was 13th. Let me look here again. Or no, March 20th. That'll be the next one. So about 6 weeks away. And then May 1st is the next one now. So it'll be right away in May, where if they potentially cut rates, that's where we could be seeing it here. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And again, if you are new to this, how this goes, usually on average, the stock market does tank 27% on average throughout history when the Fed does pivot and starts to cut rates again. And that could be over time. That doesn't mean in a day. Obviously, the stock market doesn't go down 27% in a day, usually. But over time, that is what has happened. So, what do you think, Ewok? Because I think this will be bullish for our altcoins here in the short term. And then it makes me think that May is pretty likely. So, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I agree. We've been saying it, since last year, we kind of predicted that May would be the time. As far as altcoin season, none of this is really playing out like we thought it would quite yet. We thought we would have a dip in Bitcoin by now. Hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to. And with that pivot, we looked at the charts, we've compared it. Some of the dips are 15, 20%. Some of them are 30 or 40%. So over time, you're right. It is about a 27, 28% average that things pull back and the rest of the markets kind of follow suit. Will this time be different? Quite possible, because now people can risk off into Bitcoin with their ETF. I don't know if that'll make a difference. I don't know if people will pull out and get into altcoins quite that early. Historically, they wait for the Bitcoin run up to cash out some profits before they move it over. If Bitcoin kind of stagnates, will that trigger it? That's an interesting, if it doesn't make the run up like like people think it will right after the halving, people could get tired of waiting, and that could be beneficial to the alt markets. That's kind of how I see it happening, is if that nothing really happens right away, people get impatient. I mean, I've noticed it a lot lately that people are more and more impatient. And I think it's because of history and people knowing that people have made a lot of money in crypto, and they get in and they're like, when's my turn? When's my turn? They think it's the lottery ticket mentality when it should happen overnight. And it just really doesn't. It doesn't work that way. We all have a ton of time, hours watching videos and learning. And, it's definitely not a get rich quick type thing, but people misinterpret it for that and they get impatient. They don't want to wait. So I could see an altcoin pump from that, especially if Bitcoin doesn't do anything right away. It's the old meme of the stick with do something. They're poking Bitcoin, do something. I think we'll be seeing a lot of those coming up here in the next month or so. Just do something.
I think so too. Yeah, I think we're going to see that BTC dominance, I think, come back down. and see the alts run. Yeah, I think that is what is likely as we head into this next quarter. So will be fun to see what the Fed does do. And yeah, I mean, we haven't seen an environment where they've been cutting rates for quite some time now. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how that goes. Huge year. I mean, you know, we've talked about this on this show. We're in an election year. There's so many big things coming. We've got wars going on everywhere. You know, the people have different takes on and stuff like that. It's going to be an insane year. That's for sure. Especially here in the States.
Elections, a lot of crazy things happening.
Yes. Let's round off on this. We gave it a little bit of lip service earlier, but let's just finish up with the Solana thing. So it goes down again early this morning. Apparently right after, and I heard some people talking about this, but I just kind of tune out airdrops because I don't care about them really. But some kind of like Jupiter airdrop, I think it was called, or something, that happened a few days ago. And I guess it was on Solana. And I saw Sami mention this. Apparently, the Bankless boys were congratulating Solana at the end of one of their podcasts for handling this huge airdrop so well, and like shout out to the Solana team or some. I don't know. I didn't hear it myself. I'm just going off of a game of telephone here. But then, you know, days later, Solana goes down again, basically. So, you know, we can talk about like the folly of the network and how it's really been the last couple of years. But really, the other angle of this too is, you know, it's already been a front runner in this bull market. It's run already, you know, and this is something that we've talked about, like during its whole run and the whole bonk thing over the last couple of months while PulseChain was still depressed. We've seen Solana pretty much top out on that move and start to come back down significantly. I think these continued issues with their network, the fact that there's so much kind of bloat in it at this point and everybody's on it. I mean, it's a second cycle at this point. Again, every influencer in the world is on top of it. It was like the fad thing to do, you know, over the last 6 months or so. I think it's all reasons why it's likely, you know, very likely not the best opportunity in this bull market. I mean, like clearly we sit here and talk about PulseChain every single week because that's where we think the best opportunity is. You know, will other tokens and memes and this and that outrun PulseChain? Yeah. Tell me what they are, though. I don't know.
Right.
But as far as like things that you could feel comfortable placing your bets on, I mean, there's no way that I would take Solana over PulseChain or, you know, any of these, or even like these new layer twos or like Aptos, Arbitrum. People have to realize that this stuff just is not crypto. Yes, it is a token that they call a cryptocurrency, but these things weren't done in a fair manner at all. You know, PulseChain had a sacrifice phase. So if you want to say that, I mean, I don't know how you could say that sacrificers are, you know, have a leg up on anybody. They've been underwater for 2 years, basically. So, and still are. You know, you actually beat people that sacrifice by buying over the last 8 months. But with this stuff, we know that VC guys got in, and there are literally token unlock dumping schedules, you know, like quarterly. And a lot of them I know are here in February. So Solana is a big one. So there's just plenty of sell pressure. You know, we have that here too. I'm not saying we don't. We have whales in this ecosystem and stuff like that. But it's not the same as people who got a significantly lower price than you that were incentivized to and never have a plan on staying in the token to begin with. So anyway, that's a long spiel to say that I don't think Solana is a good opportunity this bull cycle, but seeing these things happen with it make it even worse. So what do you think, Ewok?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could totally see it running. Don't get me wrong. I think it could run up. It could end up being, you know, $200. I think the high, let's look at it here. What was this high back here? $257 back in November of 21.
Sounds
you know,
right.
It could get up there again. There's a lot of backing. There's a lot of VC backing. But as you said, those VCs have unlocked schedules. So, you know, at this point when your token is $96, okay, if it gets to 300 back to the top ish, 3x, you know, is it worth it? You know, no, it's not worth it then. If you would have bought back at $8, then okay, maybe. But I don't think now's the time if you're going to be buying anything like that, especially something that the chain goes down. You know, it's crazy to me how many times this chain can go down and it just keeps going. People don't care at
Hmm.
all. But if there's a glitch, or if something happens, let's say it would happen with PulseChain. Oh my God, Richard's a scammer. You
Hmm.
know, immediately. Like, it's just there's so much bias when it comes to this type of stuff. You know, it baffles me. I don't understand it. You know, like I said, I wouldn't spend $96 on one token. I'd spend $96 on PulseChain if I had to buy one or the other.
Hmm.
Um, Knowing a first cycle type thing like this is coming out, with the amount of builders and developers and community and everything that's behind it, I I definitely wouldn't touch it. Just by the VC backing alone, you know they're going to dump on your heads. You know what's going to happen, and they've scheduled it to happen. So, yeah, I would stay far, far away from it. But we do have to welcome that community again. Again, you know,
Hmm.
the gist of this whole conversation and a lot of this stream tonight has been accepting other people. You know, I would like to ask the Solana people to come and see what we have. You know, I hate it when I see your shit sucks. You should come look at ours. Well, that's not the way
Yeah.
to, you know, that's not the way to get people in by telling them that their thing sucks. You know, it's just not the best way to handle it. Um, you should feel compassion for them for their stuff going down all the time, and say, hey, you know, something we have over here is pretty special. You may want to come take a look at it. I mean, that's how it should be approached. You know, you get more bees with honey than shit. So
Very true. Unfortunately, a lot of it, you know, and that may work for some people, but I think a lot of it is just having balls. And here's the thing. The Solana thing is, you know, it's backed by big people. You know, it's not just backed by the VC investors and stuff, but, you know, Coin Bureau, Ben Armstrong, all these different people have been all over Solana for a while now. So investors feel more comfortable with that if, you know, if it's being covered. Pulse Chain, it's like they don't understand that there's more of an asymmetric upside because of the fact that we don't have these VC guys in here. And like the fact that because it isn't on an exchange is because it's the best time to get it value wise. I mean, to me right now, I personally think if I bought Pulse Chain right now today with it just hovering a little above SAC rate, I am thinking like bare minimum. I think I'm going to get a 30x from that buy. Like that's just me. I think like I'd be very comfortable saying I do think that will be a 30x from that buy right now. If I bought Solana today, I would be hoping best case scenario for a 15x. That's what I personally would be. I know we've seen people say like, "Oh yeah, it's going to go well over 2K and all this." Maybe it does. That's fine, but even then, it's still not better than my Pulse Chain buy that I think I'm getting. So yeah, I mean, I just you know, it's just there's too many. First off, it does go down so frequently. There's too many people backing it at this point as far as value, you know, investing this cycle. It's its second cycle. There's too many things working against it for me. And you know, everything that we have going on Pulse Chain, insane community, insanely cheap fees, all these great things being built on it right now. And that's the thing too, is everything being built on Pulse Chain by a lot of these developers they all have the same ethos of Richard Hart in them, whether it's liquid loans or Tetra or any of this stuff. I mean, fame, all that stuff. They have the real DeFi ethos built in them. I don't think I'm going to get that on other blockchains. So that's just where I would rather be.
what are you hearing? People think it's going to go over 2,000.
Well, we talked about that. Miguel said that one week. We talked about that on a
Mm,
stream. I mean, even DCC himself said that. That's really who I was referencing, but I'm sure there's other
okay.
people who think that. You know, and I mean, again, it was 250 last cycle, so I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be more like, I'd actually be surprised if it got to 1,000. To be honest with you, I
Yeah.
think it'll probably be more like 500 or 2x last time's highs. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I
Okay.
know people are bullish on it, so
Yeah.
yeah. That's all I
Not me.
got on it. Any other thoughts from you, Ewok?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well,
I'm not bullish on it.
no, no, not really either. But I do definitely welcome those people though. And I think you know, I know we say it all the time, but like people do run to green candles, unfortunately. And if that's what it does take eventually, that may just be what it takes. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see. But yeah, so I think that's gonna wrap us up for tonight. We saved a couple little topics that I want to push over to next week, but great conversations tonight. Great chat. Thank you to all you guys for bringing so much good stuff to us. The comment about Blast earlier, which, I will look further into for sure. But just to shout some people out, Patrick's Astro and stuff, Liberty or Death, Boi Crypto, Philly, of course, in here tonight, Patrick, a lot of you guys, Scott, just a lot of people that we haven't seen before. Joe, a lot of great people in here tonight. So really appreciate all of you guys. Pink Panther, smash the like on your way out. We do this, if you are new, we do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got a ton of subs, I know, last week from the Frank Molina stream, and I think a lot of people just really valued that conversation, and I'm glad they did. I think it was a lot of people's first exposure to seeing Frank, just because he doesn't, he's not on streams or Twitter all the time, and, the market's turned around, so people, slowly, I think, are coming back. So
yeah,
if you are new here, we really appreciate you guys. And Hexboy, you've been here since the beginning. So not insulting you. I'm just saying that I see a lot of new names in here tonight. So yeah, we will see you guys next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for my co-host Crypto Ewok, this has been Boi Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. See you guys.